Hi again, everybody. Welcome into the First Call podcast. I'm Jeremy Plonk from First Bet, along with Jeff Siegel. We are post-Preakness waiting the Belmont Stakes, and we're waiting to hear some news on who may evolve for this year's final jewel of the Triple Crown. One of the horses we know likely headed that way is Tapit Trice. Jeff, he was working this morning in New York for trainer Todd Pletcher. Dave Grenick from the Racing Forum had him in a minute .16. So good news on that front for Todd Pletcher, but they thought Forte might work today as well. That got pushed back till tomorrow. I don't know, much ado about nothing, or with this horse, do you always have to keep worrying?
You do. You never know. One thing I'm pretty convinced is they're not going to tell you until they have to about if or why there's an issue. So there's always going to be suspicion. But Tapit Trice, I didn't see the video, but apparently he worked very well. That's the good news. The bad news is he always works well. He worked really well prior to the Preakness, and he never got in the picture. So I don't know what to make of him. Although I do think on a mile and a half, if he's ever going to win a classic or a grade one, that might be the one that he would do it in, because he just kind of has a one-pace grinding style that can stay forever. And I think that he probably will come up to that race really well. I really hope, though, that Forte is healthy and ready to show his best stuff. I think that's also a distance, a mile and a half, which these horses hardly ever get a chance to run at. But I think that'll bring out his best as well. So we'll see.
If Forte were to make the Belmont Stakes, he might be the favorite, right? I mean, people still have that feeling for him. He just missed the Derby. You mentioned Tapit Trice. Of course, he was not in the picture in the Derby. He did not run in the Preakness Stakes.
That's right.
Correct you. But for the fans out there who want to come back and put on social media, Siegel thought he was in the Preakness Stakes. Of course he did. It just misspoke on that.
It was the last race he ran in, which was the Derby. Okay, that's for sure. But, the thing about him is that I've always thought he was a good horse. And then I realized that he doesn't really have a great turn of foot. He's more of a grinder. And when you get that far behind in the Derby or any middle distance race, you have a hard time beating good horses. But in the Belmont, you can lay fairly close up and just kind of stay the trip. And I think that would be his chance. But I also think that would be his chance for the Forte's trip too, because he doesn't have a blazing turn of foot either. He's got an extended run. So when you put those two horses at a mile and a half, it could very well be their best chance to do something that they ordinarily will never get another chance to do, run a mile and a half on the dirt.
And we're expected to see the Preakness winner, National Treasure, back in the Belmont Stakes. We could see a couple from Brad Cox. Hit show, certainly. Angel of Empire, two horses out of the Derby, talked about from Cox showing up there. So we'll see what the field looks like here in a couple weeks for the Belmont Stakes. But once upon a time, Memorial Day weekend was about as big as it got on the racing calendar, right? We always anticipated the Met Mile on Memorial Day Monday. It was such a huge racing day. It's not what it used to be, but Santa Anita has altered their stake schedule, and they really have a Memorial Day to shine with three grade ones coming up on Monday. Shoemaker Mile, of course. We've got the Gamely, and then the Hollywood Gold Cup is on Memorial Day. We've seen that race as late as mid-June, right before Santa Anita closes for the season. So Memorial Day is a big day this weekend at Santa Anita, and it's big racing weekend that starts today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 4-day racing week at Santa Anita. And of course, Jeff, you got your analysis at Express Bet for today's card, if anybody, and at First Bet, if anybody's taking a look at the Friday action, you'll have handicapping all weekend for Santa Anita, of course.
Yeah, I do that, and I'm looking forward. They'll draw. This is Friday, so they'll draw today for Monday, and I'm looking forward to a really, really good card on Monday. We at Santa Anita, because the field sizes aren't as big as some other tracks. Some of the days come up a little light, but I have a hunch we're going to have a good weekend this week. Hopefully, we will, and I'll again, as you mentioned, all the analysis, race by race analysis. Will be on the ExpressBet website, and hopefully people can take advantage of that.
Big weekend of racing at Canterbury Park in Minnesota, where it's opening day for the 2023 season on Saturday night. They'll have racing this weekend and go to a 3 and 4 day schedule throughout the course of the summer in Minnesota. We'll handicap some racing from Canterbury Park. I want to let you know, too, this weekend at Canterbury, when you bet $100 on a card, you get 20 back, whether you're playing Saturday, Sunday, or Monday this weekend at Canterbury. So almost it is a 20% rebate on $100 wager to Canterbury Park this weekend, so be sure to take advantage of that. Of course, First Bet is the official app at Canterbury Park, and a lot of folks on track playing with First Bet at Canterbury. So we are happy to be partners with them, and we're going to take a look at their stakes race to start off the racing season. They've got 2 of them on Saturday night, Jeff, and as we look at our schedule of 8 races that we'll handicap here on the First Call podcast, we're going to look at one of those 2. The Thousand Lakes is earlier in the card. The Lady Slipper, race number 9, will be the race we take a look at Canterbury. A very diverse cast of races this week. The Obeah Stakes, the prep for the Delaware Handicap, is run this weekend in Stanton, Delaware. Monmouth Park has the cliffhanger for the Turfers. At Churchill Downs, the Kiratina, also on the grass. We stay on the grass in that theme at Belmont Park, where they'll run the Soaring Softly on Saturday. Santa Anita is going to go turf and dirt with the Daytona and the Triple Bend for the Saturday co-features. We'll handicap those races. And a look ahead Sunday to the Alcatraz Stakes, already drawn at Golden Gate Field. So 8 stakes races, 7 different venues. Jeff, get the GPS tuned in this weekend. We've got a lot of places to travel and take a look at. Let's start at Canterbury Park, where the Lady Slipper is race number 9 on the card. These are Minnesota-bred fillies sprinting 6 furlongs on the main track and a good field size of 10, so we got an opportunity for a good betting race. How'd you see this one when you handicapped it?
Well, first of all, let me say I had horses in stable up at Canterbury about 15 years ago, and they just treat you like kings there. It's just a great place to run horses, and love flying into Minnesota. It's from LA. It was an easy flight for me, and really enjoyed it there. The money though wasn't much at that time. Now it's better, and I wish they had the kind of purses then that they have now. This race is for Minnesota breds, and one thing what I like to look at, just as a starting thing when I handicap these state bred races, is to try to find horses that have been successful in open company. And most of the horses in this race have primarily made their money in their best money in Minnesota bred races. Charlie's Penny has done it outside of that. She's been around the block a few times. She's been like everywhere: Arlington, Woodbine, Churchill, Fairgrounds, Hawthorne. And she did have one race at Canterbury. She came in and in a Minnesota bred race last September and won for fun. Now she's back again after a freshening, and I don't see any reason from that outside draw where she won't get clear sailing and just roll on by. I think she's outclassed this field, which is why she's 7-5 in the morning line. But 5 out of 11 lifetime, and again, doing it mostly out of state bred company. So this is kind of slumming for her, I think, in a way.
We've got Joel Burnt, one of the top trainers at Canterbury, and of course Mac Robertson, always right up at the top of the standings there too. You want to get a handicapping primer for Canterbury Park, check out the blog section at expressbet.com and at First Bet. We have a handicapping primer with some stats from BetMix, and going back and looking at the First Bet handicapping factors that have been most successful if you're playing with the app for Canterbury Racing. So be sure to check out those blogs on the First Bet site and expressbet.com. As we mentioned, Mac Robertson, one of the top trainers there at Canterbury every year. He's got 3 of the horses in the stakes race there in the Lady Slipper. Let's turn our attention now from Canterbury and move to Delaware Park next up. The Obeah Stakes, $150,000 here. Mile and a 16th on the main for the fillies and mares. Again, this is the first of the local tune-ups towards the 1.25 mile Delaware handicap. If they can't get the 1 mile and a 16th, they won't get the 10 furlongs. So we will see who graduates out of this when it moves towards the Del Cap path. One of the horses to watch in here is Morning Matcha, coming off a win last time out at Parks. Let's go back and listen to the call from Jessica Paquette.
Disco Ebo has been in command every step of the way as they round the turn and hit the top of the stretch. Frankie Pennington still sitting pretty chilly, looks under his shoulder for competition. The only ones coming from his barn right to the outside. Morning Matcha coming to launch her bid to confront Disco Ebo. And these 2 titans are locking heads in deep stretch. Right, putting her head in front, Morning Matcha. Disco Ebo fights on, but can't keep strides with Morning Matcha. Morning Matcha and Paco Lopez. She returns a winner. Morning Matcha gets the win over Disco Ebo in third, 90% Bryn.
Third in Nicomely when previously seen between that in November. And as Jessica said, back in a big way off that 5-month layoff. Good effort from Morning Matcha. Do you expect her to move forward again?
Well, she's done nothing but move forward in her recent races. I want to read you her buyer numbers. Since she finished third in the Delaware Oaks last year, her buyer numbers have gone from 79 to 82 to 84 to 91 to 91 to 95 in that last race. Now, I don't often trust buyer numbers at Parks. They tend to be inflated. But even if she isn't a true 95, which would make her like a grade 1 race filly if it were, then even if that's not true, I still think she'll win this race. She's every bit as capable of sprinting as she is routing. Distance doesn't bother her at all. First or second or third in the money, 15 out of 18 starts with 5 wins. And again, with rising numbers, inside draw, which will guarantee a good second flight, ground saving trip. She's 8-5, and I would take that right now if I could get it. We saw in that last race in the video, she didn't change leads. I don't know if that's normal for her or not, but she also won under wraps, so she could have even gone faster. I don't think that was going to be, I don't think it'll prove to be a taxing race, even though the number was fast. Morning matchup for me should be able to win the Obeah.
You've got Brittany Russell with Hybrid Eclipse in there. Brittany's hitting over 50%, I think, right now at the Pimlico meet, sending this one outside of Maryland for the road trip. Interesting there. The other horse making a roadie here, Tap the Faith, is interesting to me because this is a $1.25 million Tappet filly. They need to get some black type on her resume to make her a broodmare career, and this could be a spot where it's not the biggest field size here, with just 6 of them at Delaware Park. Christophe Clement sends her in with Carol Cedeno riding, a good local rider. So Tap the Faith, kind of interesting here with a decent draw, but not a lot of early speed. The horse doesn't have a great turn of foot, but could be grinding for a share. And again, I think they're just trying to at least get third in here, Jeff, because stakes placed mare with a $1.25 million Tappet pedigree, that's going to come back and pay off down the line.
That's what I would tell the jock. I don't care what you do, just finish third. That's all you have to do. I'm thrilled. If you finish third, we win. Now, if you win, that's even better. We're not asking you to do that. Just ride to finish third, get that black type, and then everything else down the road is gravy for.
Let's move next to Monmouth. We just go across the Mid-Atlantic this week. We go from Delaware Park to Monmouth. A short drive if you've ever made it. I don't know, about 90 minutes or so from Monmouth to Delaware Park, 2 hours tops, depending on traffic when you hit getting around a couple of the metro areas. The Cliffhanger Stakes for turfers here at 1 mile and a 16th. These are 3-year-olds and up. This gets you towards the path, towards Haskell Day, towards the United Nations. That race will be a little bit longer. I believe 1 mile and 3/8 for the United Nations, if memory serves me. This one at 1 mile and a 16th. Jeff, who'd you end up with here in the Cliffhanger?
Originally, when I handicapped this race, I fell to Smoke and Tea, who could still win. But after watching his race at Churchill, I realized that win was a product of one of the greatest trips you ever saw in your life. Had the rail that day, scraped paint on the inside every step of the way, angled off the rail. I mean, it's almost like one of these harness races where you sit second in the catbird seat, you come around and you win going away. You haven't done anything. You just you fell into it. Now I'm selling Smoke and Tea a little short there because he did earn a career top buyer number in the process, and maybe he'll get the same kind of trip. And with only 13 starts, maybe this Son of Warfront is starting to really get good for Shug. So I couldn't throw him out, but I actually went with another horse right inside of him, James Aloysius. Another lightly raced colt, this one by More Than Ready. I thought, after watching him run last year, I thought he was going to be a pretty good colt as a 3-year-old after breaking his maiden. But then he disappeared, comes back off the bench, wins a nice race at the Gulfstream, takes a raise in class and runs another good race. He was second, but he strikes me as a colt who's going to get better with every start. And the fact that he's being run in the stake race indicates, instead of an allowance race, indicates that the connections must think he's good enough. From that rail post, he's going to get a great trip. I think James Aloysius is going to produce another forward move. And I think at 6-1, he has a very good chance of stepping up and winning at this level. So for me, James Aloysius will be my top pick in the Cliffhanger.
You've got Big Everest in here going for 4 wins in a row. Certainly going to take plenty of action for Christophe Clement on the outside. In fact, that horse has won 5 of the last 6, almost all in photo finish fashion. So I don't know. He's probably due some bad luck at some point. Big Everest has gotten the best of it of late. Also from New York, you've got shippers like Public Sector in here trying to drop in class and find an easier spot for Chad Brown. Interesting addition of the Cliffhanger. If memory serves me, that race used to be at the old Meadowlands. That used to be a Meadowlands.
Yes, it was. Yes.
Now part of the Monmouth scene and a prep again towards the United Nations coming up on Haskell Day in July. To Churchill Downs we go next on our tour. We leave the Mid-Atlantic and we head to Churchill here, and the Kirtana Stakes, named for the Tom Proctor trainee, good distance turf mare. No doubt this race fits the namesake, and 1.5 miles on the grass for the fillies and mares. And we've got a field of, what do we got in here? 2, 4, 6, 8 of them. And the top play for Jeff could be Miss Yearwood, coming off a win last time out at Keeneland. Let's go back and take a look at her last race with Kurt Becker on the call.
Second, Lady Arsenault looks toward the rail. She's still 5 from the front. Here's Broadway Boogie down the outside. Miss Yearwood has been last in the start. She is running late in the center of the course. Bravo Kitten, Shad Nation. Miss Yearwood far outside as clear running, and Miss Yearwood is striding forward. Miss Yearwood, Chris Landeros, clear by 3. Miss Yearwood to win the nightcap.
You don't get many distance races on the turf like that at Keeneland, won by 3.5 lengths. You know, usually these races are bunched up. They're slow early. Everybody kind of rallies to the wire then, and we get kind of a blanket finish. It's impressive when you can put daylight like that on the field. Miss Yearwood comes back. Landeros re-rides. It's been a good Churchill start for Ian Wilkes. He's won with 3 of his first 17, hitting right at a decent percentage there. And he had an outstanding Keeneland meet. So will this Miss Yearwood transfer that Keeneland form now to Churchill Downs? That's the question. But you seem to think so.
I think so. Yeah, she did all of her work from the 8th pole to the wire in that race. It wasn't like, you talk about being bunched up. Yeah, I mean, she was dead last at the quarter pole, and they were crawling in front of her. So, I mean, she rallied wide, and it didn't even look like she was handling the course because she changed leads like 3 times in the final furlong trying to find her footing. But for her to make up that much ground in such a short period of time shows me that turn of foot that she displayed in that race, even though it was an allowance race, was very impressive to me. And she's run some good races. It seems like, she didn't really handle Gulfstream. Her style doesn't really suit Gulfstream, I don't think. Short stretch,
right? No.
Quick ground, and she's trying to rally against fillies who can quicken just as fast as she could. So I don't hold those 2 races against her. But other than that, and then Black Eyed Susan, which she finished 7th last year, and which is on dirt, she's been pretty consistent. You can expect her to run her race, and going 1.5 miles for Churchill, I don't see any reason why she won't run back to that last race. I hope she does. And if she can repeat that last race against this arguably tougher field, again, 6-1, I can take that and be fairly confident that I'm going to get her best effort. So Miss Yearwood for me to win the Kirtana.
Exit Soul comes from your backyard there at Santa Anita, off a 3rd place finish in Santa Barbara, probably part of the early pace. I want to mention just Lady Arsenault in this race, a Belmont trainee, chased in that last race with Miss Yearwood. I just bring the horse up simply because of Belmont, because yesterday the news came out that Rich Strike, winner of last year's Kentucky Derby, will be transferred to the care of Belmont, the Hall of Famer, taking over the controls of Rich Strike. I don't know, Jeff, there was something in that Kentucky Derby that looked awfully good. And I know at that time you thought Rich Strike was not a fluke and not a one-hit wonder. He hasn't reproduced anything close to that since, but could Bill Mott get it out of him? What do you make of that transfer?
I'm sure Bill Mott is thrilled to get him because it's a win-win for him. I mean, if he doesn't run any good, he hasn't run any good for a year, so you got nothing to lose. But if he resuscitates him, then that's a feather in your cap, right? And I don't know if I don't know if they'll ever come back to that Derby. I'm kind of thinking maybe that wasn't even him in the Derby; it was somebody else. I don't know, someone who looked like him, like the old movies in the 20s where they would switch horses. But seriously, no, I think if he's ever going to come back to being a useful racehorse, Bill will get the most out of him. So it'll be interesting to see if there is a massive turn back to his previous form, or whether he is a one-hit wonder. And we've seen a lot of one-hit wonders, so I wouldn't be shocked if that's what he is. But he ran so well that day, it's hard to believe that there isn't something that Bill can't find that can bring him back, at least to respectability.
Your plan brings back an old story. When I was growing up, one of my best friends, his dad was a twin, and he and his brother both played basketball together. And if one got in foul trouble, they'd switch jerseys, they said, at halftime and come out the other one, because one was good. I can't remember which guy was good and which one wasn't, but one was good, the other one wasn't. If there was foul trouble, they would switch jerseys at halftime and come back out. But that's the plan that we need maybe for Rich Strike. Switch the jerseys there at some point. Let's go next to Belmont Park, where we are on the grass in the Soaring Softly Stakes. Grade 3, 7 furlong sprint here. We're going to get some good sprints in New York on the turf coming up. We know that we will have one on the Japer coming up, like Belmont week, and then into Saratoga, where they just run a ton of turf sprints. So this one did not get a ton of attention at the entry box. They're 3-year-old fillies exclusively. So we've got a short field of 6 in here and some lightly raced runners, a couple of them just coming off of career debut wins. One of those was Queen Picasso. Let's go back and take a look at how she was unveiled at Gulfstream Park with Pete Aiello on the mic back on March 5th.
3/4, 112 flat. Soviet Excess still the target. Queen Picasso second. Highland Grace on the outside third. Sunbee trying to come up the fence. Then utilization rate. King's Secret didn't fire. There's an 1/8 of a mile to go. Queen Picasso on the outside for a narrow lead. Battling hard is Soviet Excess. Third, Highland Grace. Final 16th of a mile. Queen Picasso is in front. On the outside and Highland Grace. Queen Picasso debuts a winner.
And Queen Picasso first out for Christophe Clement. Look, by Kingman, you would not expect this one to win first time asking. You would think maybe, longer distances. That was at the mile and the 16th. Now they turn back to 7 furlongs. So this is a really interesting move by Clement. What do you make of it?
Well, it is interesting for that reason and another reason, and that is because Christophe also has the favorite here, Love Appeals at 6-5. And you'd figure if he was so sure that Love Appeals was as good as she looked last time out when she won sprinting at Aqueduct, then maybe he would save Queen Picasso for another race. Interesting quotes in the DRF, though. Clement says that Queen Picasso has shown a lot of speed in the morning, more so than you'd think, and he thinks 7/8 will be perfect for her. Very, very high on her. In fact, she was actually in a race on April 29th called the Memories of Silver. So she was going to run in a stakes race even then. The race came off the turf, and so he scratched her. But he was high enough on her to run her in a stakes race right off, last month. And then he, instead of just saying, "Oh, I'll just settle for now, 1 is a 2 and whatever." No, he's back in stakes races, and obviously it would be nice again for her to get some black type bred like she is. But I don't think he's thinking that this is the only chance she's going to have to earn black type. I think Queen Picasso's in there to win it. Love It Appeals notwithstanding, and she's 5-1. Love Appeals is 6-5, and maybe Love Appeals will just outfoot her and just be better. But I don't think Clement thinks there's that much difference, if any, between the two. So why not try the better price? And we don't know how good Queen Picasso is, but she's pretty good, maybe very good. So let's go for the better price and put her on top.
2 in here for Clement, 2 for Chad Brown. He's got the 1 Lady Beth and the outside horse Senior Prank, the 6. So they comprise 2/3 of the field for Mott and Clement, or I should say Brown and Clement. And that's not odd to see in a turf race in New York, for sure, especially with the fillies and mares. Those two have had a deft hand with that class over the years. To the Daytona Stakes, we go next at Santa Anita. It's the first of 2 handicapping chores for us coming up Saturday at the Great Race Place. Huge stakes day coming up Saturday, Sunday, and Monday at Santa Anita. So be sure to check everything out. And when you're betting with First Bet and Express Bet, there's some incentive to play these races at Santa Anita over the weekend. Jeff, the late pick 4's got a $5,000 hit and split bonus. That means if you play the late pick 4 at Santa Anita Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, any of those 3 days this weekend, not only if you hit the pick 4 will you get your pari-mutuel earnings, you'll split $5,000 in additional cash only with other players on the First Bet and Express Bet platforms who also hit the pick 4. So you could be boosting up your payoffs for sure. And if you like to play handicapping tournaments, Santa Anita is the place to be this weekend. Today, we've got a feeder tournament for the weekend. I believe the amount on the feeder tournament is really low end today. It is $40 to play the handicapping tournament today. So if you want to bet the Santa Anita races this weekend and play in the handicapping tournaments, $40 feeder tournament today could earn you a qualifier towards tomorrow's $500 Santa Anita Challenge handicapping tournament. So Saturday's a $500 live money tournament, the Santa Anita Challenge. Then again on Sunday, you get a chance to play in an $80 feeder that could get you to Monday's really big one, $1,500 Gold Cup Day Challenge at Santa Anita handicapping tournament. The only place to play handicapping tournaments online is with Express Bet. Just the best tournaments schedule. 100% of the entry fees always go back into paying the winners. ExpressBet keeps nothing out of the handicapping tournaments when you play with them, and It's handicapping in the parimutuel pools and betting in the parimutuel pools. And then, of course, your stake and your prize money adding up, and also qualifiers to other big tournaments around the country. So 2 big feeders, one on Friday for Saturday's $500 tournament. Then on Sunday, a qualifier for Monday's $1,500 tournament at Santa Anita. And again, those late pick 4 hit and splits are a great reason to get involved. The Daytona Stakes race, race number 7 at Santa Anita, 6.5 down the hill. Jeff, who do we like in this one at Santa Anita on Saturday?
I think it's hard to get past What Makes Sammy Run. He just won a similar race called the Siren Lure down the hill. I like horses that have been able to run well down the hill in the past, because it's a unique course. It's downhill. A lot of horses don't really enjoy running downhill. You think you would. It's easier, but some of them kind of break a little bit. They're just not sure. They have to cross that dirt. Also, they have to make a right-hand turn, a left-hand turn. And it's very unique. And if you can get a horse like What Makes Sammy Run, who has won and several times on the course, and I think he's going to fire again. He's 9-5, no big deal in terms of the price. Indian Peak from the rail and Lovesick Blues, I think, will run well as well. I think those are the ones he has to worry about. But it's kind of a safe assumption that he's going to fire What Makes Sammy Run. So he looks like a logical winner.
It was a scramble in the stretch run last time in the Siren Lure. Indian Peak, who you mentioned, finished 3rd in that one behind What Makes Sammy Run. And the 4th place finisher, Burn and Turf, is back as well. So let's give the fans a chance to see this race. The Siren Lure at Santa Anita with Frank Miramati on the call from just in April.
And What Makes Sammy Run, only 3 lengths covers the field with a 1/4 mile to go. Sunrise Journey, the white blaze of Air Force Red, moves to engage in 2nd. Burn and Turf, What Makes Sammy Run on the outside. Indian Peak comes through in the pink. Here's Indian Peak with a nice move at the 8th pole. And What Makes Sammy Run storming down the center of the course. Air Force Red in between them. What Makes Sammy Run and Air Force Red come for the wire together. What Makes Sammy Run? What Makes Sammy Run from last to first under Joe Bravo.
Air Force Red was all the rage at 1-2 in there. He's not back in this spot, so it should get theoretically a bit easier for What Makes Sammy Run. Next up on the program for us to handicap and at Santa Anita is race number 8, the Triple Bend Stakes. So consecutive stakes on the card. The Daytona is the 7th on Saturday, the 8th, the Triple Bend. This is also the Express Bet race of the week. You can get my full analysis of this race in the email inbox of your choice. If you're part of the email newsletter with Express Bet and First Bet, we send out the race of the week every Thursday. So, Jeff, I took a handicapping shot in here, and I know weight's not a big deal. It's not a huge deal. And at 7 furlongs, a lot of people say they only care about weight as they go longer and longer. 7's a bit of a taxing sprint distance. I thought in this race that we have a rematch between Forbidden Kingdom and Spirit of Makena. There's a 6-pound shift in the weights. Last time, Spirit of Makena got the victory while receiving 4 pounds. Now Forbidden Kingdom not only doesn't have to give 4, he gets 2. So a 6-pound shift in the weight. And I thought, look, with a horse like Forbidden Kingdom, there are no variables, right? He just goes. And he goes as fast as he can, as far as he can. He's never had a horse in front of him in the first call of a race after the first 1/4 mile in his 10 career starts. I thought getting 6 pounds and probably a better price this time, that was the way to go. I went with Forbidden Kingdom. But if you watch the replay of the race last time, Spirit of Makena probably comes back and wins again, right?
Well, I had the exact same notion that you had originally, because Forbidden Kingdom was getting 6 pounds. Now, I'm not a big weight guy. I don't think you are either. But when you have 6 pounds and you've got 2 horses that were separated by a little bit more than a length, it should be a factor. It's got to figure in there. Now, I always say that the higher quality horse that you have, the less weight makes a difference. It's not one size fits all. Okay. So you have a lightly raced horse, a 5-year-old by Ghost Sapper named Spirit of Makena, who's won 3 out of 4. Only defeat was around 2 turns. Yep. Then you have Forbidden Kingdom, who I liked last time in the San Carlos, and he cleared easily. He went 22-3 to the quarter, which is not that fast. He did get sped up midway, but he just didn't fight back as much as I wanted him to. And so I don't know whether 6 pounds is enough. I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, maybe it does, but if you go back and watch that race, I mean, it's hard to come away with the idea that Spirit of Makena just wasn't just flat out better, and that 6 pounds may or may not make any difference this time around.
Spirit of McKenna jockey Joe Bravo back aboard. He was riding last time in the San Carlos. He seemed like he was in the bike, like halfway around the turn. Like he had to like get after this horse to go. But then once they were straight, just was clearly better in like the last couple hundred yards. I'm wondering if Juan Hernandez aboard the Forbidden Kingdom in here with the speed just doesn't like, once he's clear, try to get that extra spurt before the horse gets to him again. Don't let, if Spirit Mechanic gets alongside of him again, he's probably done. Right. So the idea is like, while that other guy's in the bike, you got to be asking for that horse's life and try to break the race open at the top of the stretch. To me, that's the only strategic way that this flips.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I watched after that race. I watched, and people can do this if they would like, because it's obviously free on xbtv.com. But I went back and watched Forbidden Kingdom's workout. I believe it was May 15th, and he worked in company that day, and they held him up. He was like under a stronghold, going head and head with another horse, and that other horse, I can't think of his name, but I think he's in the Shoemaker Mile on Monday, so you'll recognize him. It's a Mandela horse. Anyway, Forbidden Kingdom just spit it out at the 8th pole. He was like almost mad that they weren't letting him run. He said, screw it. You're not going to let me run. I'm just going to stop. And I think Forbidden Kingdom might be better if I just let him roll out of there. Maybe try to win the race from the half-mile pole to the quarter pole, as opposed to doing this and then have to re-brake and have some closer breathing down his neck and getting the horse mad in the process. So if I were to be told that this time they're not going to be waiting around and just let them run out of there and make them wear themselves out chasing you, then I could change my mind. But I don't know if that's going to happen or not. Right. So it's going to be an interesting race within a race to see what strategy is employed by Forbidden Kingdom. But having said that, you're dealing with a very good horse here in Spirit of McKenna, who, again, has only lost one race. He's had his issues, but he's worked very well since. I think he's going to step forward again. And if Forbidden Kingdom goes faster, I think Spirit of McKenna will just be a little closer to him and still go on by. Interesting race.
Let's take a look back at the San Carlos.
They're coming to the quarter pole, and it's Forbidden Kingdom cruising to the quarter pole with a length advantage. Spirit of McKenna trying to cut into the margin second. Get Her Number continues to make headway. Just got a reminder on the outside as Spirit of McKenna has run by Forbidden Kingdom with a furlong left to go. Handridden opens up 2. Get Her Number in the center of the track. It's Spirit of McKenna in a powerful effort. Spirit of McKenna has won the San Carlos Stakes presented by FanDuel. Forbidden Kingdom second, photo between Get Her Number and Howbeit, who was finishing well.
We'll have to go to the gallop out there, because it wasn't where Forbidden Kingdom just completely threw it in reverse at that point. Galloped out probably, in fairly even terms with the winner. So I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hoping that Richard Mandela, who's way smarter than I am, Juan Hernandez, who's a much better tactical rider than I would ever be, see what happened last time and think it through the way I did. Let's just try to bust this. Remember the Gary Stevens move at the top of the stretch where you just bust the race open and see what happens? That's kind of what I hope they do. Just try to bust this thing open before they straighten out. And whatever you have left, you have left. Empty the tank at the quarter pole and hope that it's enough to hold on. That's what I think could be the winning strategy if it's successful, maybe in the Triple Bend stake. So we'll see how it shakes out on Saturday. Sunday's feature race that we want to talk about at Golden Gate Fields is the Alcatraz Stakes. The Alcatraz is on the grass for 3-year-old turf milers. We've got some John Sadler and Michael McCarthy shippers from Southern California. Field of 7 for $75,000 in the Alcatraz. And Jeff, you like one of the local runners in there, Prince Abu Dhabi. Tell us about it.
I do. I mean, he's a lightly raced gelding. They gave him away as a yearling, just $8,000. But I was up there when he won the California Derby. That was all weather. This is his first start on turf. No reason why he wouldn't like it. He's out of a mare by High Chaparral. And he's a horse that he's got enough tactical speed to lay somewhere in the middle. And then he can quicken. And he did that when he won the California Derby. He was moving up in class. His numbers continue to rise with every start. Again, he's never been on grass. He's never trained on grass. But he's a pro. And I like the way he won his last race, and it was a legitimate race. And I don't see any reason why duplicate that form on turf.
Let's go to Matt Ditterman's call of the California Derby, won by Prince Abu Dhabi.
Top the lane here. Harson off the turn. He's the leader now. Pushes past Novu and Jam Session. Prince Abu Dhabi trying to get there between horses. He's coming with a run. Far outside past Sarando and Egon. Prince Abu Dhabi finds the seam. And here he comes. But Phosphorence is coming up on the outside. And even Egon's getting into it late. Prince Abu Dhabi close to the line. Prince Abu Dhabi and Alexander Chavez. 4 for 4. He remains unbeaten over Phosphorescence Egon.
Jeff, that adaptability and that athleticism to kind of move and find a hole, that's turf-esque. And like you said, this horse has not raced on the turf yet, but that's the kind of skill set you want to see, that press button and push button kind of ability to get in and out of trouble and extricate yourself when you need to. That could be effective in this race coming up in the Alcatraz.
I think so. And I also want to point out that even though it looked like they kind of finished in a heap, which usually means, it may not be much of a race when they all kind of come together. That happens a lot on the all-weather surface because there's no kickback. Horses will run into it a little bit better.
Right.
And when you can do that on the all-weather, like Prince Abu Dhabi did when he was angling out and trying to find room and then accelerating, he should do it on the grass. So I think he's okay. I really do. Sometimes you get a little snobbish when you see a cheap yearling like that, but all of a sudden you look up and see he's 4 for 4 with $115,000 in purse money, and he's just a 3-year-old. He's got a whole life ahead of him, and man, nice horse. I wish I owned him. Anyway, Prince Abu Dhabi. It's a pretty competitive race for only $75,000. I mean, that's a maiden race at some places, but these are decent sort of horses, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of these horses, and Prince Abu Dhabi would be one, able to maybe come down and run on grass at Del Mar against 3-year-olds. Great 3-year-old program on turf for 3-year-olds at Del Mar, and hold his own. And so this is a good race to find out whether he can be given that opportunity, and I think he will.
You could be snobbish about sales prices and pedigrees with a first-time starter, be perfectly justified in doing so, even after they break their maiden at first asking, because you never know who's in a maiden race. But when they get the 4 for 4, the snobbery, you got to throw it aside. At that point, you got to judge. You got, what was it, Dennis Green? They are who they are, or whatever. They are what their record says they are. 4 for 4, speaks more than any kind of sales price or pedigree to that point. So that wraps up our 8 handicapping stakes races for the weekend. We know there's a big race card coming up on Monday at Santa Anita, but as we produce our podcast each Friday, they haven't drawn those stakes races yet. So you're not on your own for handicapping the Monday races. Jeff will have you covered in blog form at expressbet.com and at news.first.com, santaanita.com, xbtv.com. Any .com you can find Jeff's analysis.
It'll be there.
Santa Anita. It'll be there,
and it's
on
free.
Monday.
It's free, so there you have
absolutely free. So some great promotions, some other big racing around the country. I want to tell you about, not in the country, but out of the country. Irish Guineas coming up on Saturday morning. So all the international simulcasting that we have with First Bet and Express Bet. Some incentive to get up early and play the Irish races on Saturday morning. How about 20 times Express Bet rewards points? So tremendous rewards points. First Bet and Express Bet rewards 20 times points on any race, any amount that you bet on that Irish racing on Saturday. Into Saturday night, we told you about opening night at Canterbury Park. Canterbury's got bet 100, get $20 back when you bet with First Bet and Express Bet. And that same promo applies to Hastings Park in Western Canada. So late night Saturday racing at Hastings. Bet 100, get 20. Great partnership there with the racetrack in Canada. So some opportunities to get a 20% rebate, not only on Canterbury, but on Hastings when you're betting on Saturday. And of course, all the great action coming up in tournament play today, the feeder for Saturday, Sunday, the feeder tournament for Monday's big one. A lot of great chances to play. And if you like to chase carryovers, mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six on Monday at Santa Anita. But if somebody hits the Rainbow Six on a single ticket Saturday or Sunday at Santa Anita, Jeff, guaranteed payout of $1 million. So don't sit around and wait for the Rainbow Six mandatory payout on Monday. If you think you can take it down on a single ticket, you're going to be guaranteed to get $1 million payoff Saturday or Sunday. So a lot of good reasons to play there.
Yeah.
And Pimlico, my God, the leftover carryover pools from Preakness Day, 300,000 plus in the Rainbow Six, in the Super High Five. These are jackpot bets at Pimlico, but those are going through the roof. You can play those this weekend. Frank Carulli's got some help with your Pimlico handicapping for today on the website for Friday at ExpressBet and FirstBet if you want to check that out. So just a million reasons to play, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, that guarantee on the Rainbow Pick Six here at Santa Anita Saturday and Sunday, that might actually be the way to go. You know, you might catch some people by surprise not playing it and realizing that if you are, it might be, I'm sure it'll be a lot easier to hit, you know, if it can be done Saturday or Sunday than when everybody plays on Monday when they have to give it away. So it's look, I mean, there's so many opportunities. I know ExpressBet and other ADWs are trying to cut into the stigma of having to pay that takeout's too big and this and that. Well, it isn't if you play it right. I mean, you can certainly get the odds in your favor if you take advantage of these promotions, which ExpressBet offers so generously. I like the hit and split. That to me is just gold, you know, that promotion. So you can always get some bonus money by hitting a pick four and realizing your payoff is a lot more than just what they're giving you. There, you can make a lot more money than that, depending on how difficult it is and how many people you have to share it with. But these promotions are fantastic, and it really kind of makes playing profitable, a much better chance than otherwise.
Yeah, and make a bookmark, right? I mean, the promotions are mapped out every week on the website. Right. So go to those tabs, make a bookmark, and check back and see where the promotional boosts are each week that can help you as a horse player. That's going to wrap up this edition of the First Call podcast presented by FirstBet and ExpressBet. We are on a 1-week hiatus. We will be back in 2 weeks for the Belmont Stakes. I've got some vacation that I'm going to take next week. So no podcast, no Tuesday. It's official. No Friday First Call next week, but we will be back in full flight Tuesday and Friday of Belmont Stakes week. And by the time we rejoin you, it will be draw day for the Belmont Stakes. They draw that Tuesday for Saturday coming up in 2 weeks. So Jeff, enjoy a little bit of time off. I know you'll be blogging like crazy on the written end though next week.
Yeah, you enjoy your vacation. I'll be working through it. So I'll be publishing, but no podcasts on Tuesday and Friday of next week. And then we'll kick back in when you get back. Have a good time, and don't think about horse racing. I know you will, but don't do it.
No computer and very little phone usage. That's my goal for the following 7 days. On behalf of everybody with First Technologies, my partner Jeff Siegel, have a great week, everybody, and we'll talk to you on Belmont